Hello, my name is Brandon, and this is my app called Festival Pro. So, my idea behind this app was to come up with something that I would enjoy for myself. And as a music lover and a fan of festivals, I wanted to do something cool where I had the idea to create a poster generator for a venue of artists, which could be used recreationally or could be used by a management professional of a venue. So, somebody that would be like me could think to themselves, okay, well, this Coachella lineup, I would like to think of it in my own way. I could make this artist appear here and this artist appear here with this budget, and with that can create my own dream lineup if I was the manager or the person who acquires the talent for that festival. And then the person that is actually doing that kind of job could use the app to theorize which artists they want to put on their platform, who what their headliners can be, and overall what the poster can look like inside of their app, inside of their lineup. And so that was my idea behind this, and I wanted to see what I could implement that in the parameters of this project. So here's my MVC diagram. As you can see here at the bottom left, we have our views. Just a couple views going between each of the different screens of the app. Model is just a couple of structs that I defined, and then the controller can change the logic behind many of the functions involving the poster, involving the venues, involving the map functionality, which we will be able to visit here in a second. So this is the use case diagram, the original one, and here we can see the user opening the app, seeing the venue manager, which is where we will actually create the posters, and then also seeing our saved posters that we've already created. So the venue manager obviously has much of the other views associated to it, and then the saved will just have the posters that we can dilate and see for ourselves what we've already created. And so you can see the jumping between different nodes here. Some of these actually hadn't been implemented, and we'll come up to the limitations that I wanted to go through. So a few of them are choosing the genre, and that was a limitation because of the API that I chose. I hadn't thought of the API going into this project, what capabilities it would have, but one thing that it wasn't able to do was have the genre attached to it. There was an API for it, but I had to seek approval for it, and they still haven't gotten back to me. So I went with a different one that simply fit the functionality of the artist names. And so that's where we picked the artist from. And then another thing that I hadn't been able to implement was the picking the poster theme and the design. That was a storage issue. I had wanted to keep the size of the app down and not having to make anybody who wanted to use it have to run any images or have to download any images. So when we go to this next screen here, this is, oh, and one more thing, the save view doesn't need its own view. We can simply save from these ones. So this is what the app looks like if you were to run it for yourself. We have the music festival creator with the venue button and save posters button, and we have a little map of our little world that we live on. And on the map we have a bunch of pre-saved venues, the most popular ones in the world. So you would have venues like Coachella and Lollapalooza, ones in Europe as well, Ultra, just the larger venues that people go to see these music, oriented people. And the idea was not to focus in on one type of genre, but to allow it to be of all kinds of genres. So we have dance music, and we have pop music, and we have country thunder. It's just a app that brings all kinds of music together to find the different possibilities of lineups that we can create. Whereas, there's always a few people creating the lineups, but what if I want to make one for myself, right? So you can see in the API call here. So we'll choose somewhere in here, and then one more thing I wanted to add into the app was the possibility of searching for a venue in your own city. So here in Tempe, Arizona, we have Sunbar. That's one of our big venues on Mill Avenue. And so if you wanted to, you would type in your city, and you could type in Tempe, look at Sunbar, select Sunbar, and move to the next screen. And for Sunbar, you wouldn't be spending $1.5 million, but in the case of one of these other ones, you would. And so let's say I do Lollapalooza. At Lollapalooza, I can scroll through this list of artists, which we pulled from an API called Last.fm. Last.fm has several different API offerings, but it wasn't really, the only one that was really useful was the name. The other ones weren't really geared towards this application. So you'd select your artist and scroll through the list and generate your own little poster. And so if I wanted to create my own dream lineup, I might have SZA, Drake, Joji, and Queen on there. Get a couple different genres and piece them together and make my own kind of festival. So we can save the poster here, and then it'll jump back to the review, and we can look at our saved posters. So these two were saved, and it uses core data to save it to the device. I don't have to regenerate the poster every single time. As specified, we can save the poster and keep it to our device without having to recreate it. So yes, the capabilities are some of the things I already mentioned. You can choose any of the preloaded venues in the world that you want to select from. You can use the select venue from city feature that you can search up yourself. You don't have to have a preset number of artists. You can choose any up to 10 for your festival. And you can create and save your own poster, which I think is a cool part, that if I wanted to show my friends, I could show them the poster that I generate, tell them the people I wanted, and tell them that I'd fit it within a budget. And so those are some key capabilities that I wanted to implement and that I really saw as the main goal of the app. And so some limitations that I had, are, for one, the budget. One thing with the budget was that I didn't make it adjustable. I wanted to make it also more accurate. So that kind of fits in with the prices of artists. I don't know how much these artists cost because they're not offering it to the public. And so I wanted to know what the budget of Lollapalooza is, or what the budget of Burning Man is, or what it costs to book Drake. And so, while you can look up how much Drake is, that's one artist, and I can't hard code for 400 artists all their prices. It's just not realistic. I would rather pull it from an API, one that I didn't have access to. And so for this example, I wanted to fit the criteria of the rubric in our final project. And so that wasn't something that was obviously specifically outlined, as the class had given us a freedom to explore. But something I'd like to implement going forward will be, once I get access to the API with the budget and with the prices of artists, budget of the venues, I would like to implement that to make it more realistic. And another thing I'd like to implement is the poster backgrounds. So Lollapalooza and Coachella and EDC all have their own specific poster backgrounds. That's not something that I'm able to go into Paint and make myself in a short amount of time. I would actually have to go and remove the artist names and save those images in order to make realistic looking backgrounds and posters. That's something I'd like to do going forward, but just for the criteria of the project, that's not something that I had implemented right now. So some suggestions for the class. These are just things I got off the top of my head. A group project would have been fun. Um, if you have like any friends in the class, it's always fun to like create a project. I think it's more fun to create a project in this class than it is to do it in other classes, because Swift is pretty enjoyable to create and see what we can generate together. And also an extra credit opportunity maybe for who can make the coolest app, more the most functionality, and with the most, UI that jumps out and looks good and looks professional. I think that could be a cool competition for the students. But as a whole, I really enjoyed the class as it is, and I would take it again. I would recommend it to my friends as well. Um, Things we've learned in the class that I just wanted to outline that I've learned was using SwiftUI and Storyboard a little bit. I used Storyboard for the first, and within like the first 5 labs, I think I used it like twice. But it was good to do for the first time. And then, general Swift implementations, table views and stuff, map kits. Then these 3 things that these 2 things that we wanted for the final project. I'd also never used Xcode before, so it was good to get acclimated with that. And so thank you to Professor Balasooriya and to the TAs. All of you guys have been really cool for this semester and helped shape a good experience. So I appreciate that, and I hope you like my project. And thank you for listening to my presentation.